Amanda from Pontes Books here again to continue spotlighting chapter 1 of The Prince and the Pauper. So last time we looked at a vocabulary word, the word pauper. Now we're looking at a current event. So that means a modern-ish news story that ties back to something that was happening in the chapter. So chapter 1 doesn't have a whole lot of information in it, but it is all about the birth of our prince and our pauper, Edward and Tom. So we don't really have a modern news story that can connect to Tom's birth, unfortunately, but we can relate Edward's birth to modern stories. So today's current event we're looking at are royal babies. So all around the world, there are tons of different monarchies that are still around where they still practice to a certain extent those traditions of having the children of the current king and queen become heirs to the throne that will someday take over. And we're going to take a look at some of those today. So most notably, as I was talking about, we're relating this back to Edward, would be the Prince George of England. So Prince George is the oldest son of William and Kate, who are the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. He was born on July 22nd, 2013. And there was quite a lot of stir when he was born, just because he was their first child. Now, they are not the current king and queen of England. They are not even next in line, or William is not even next in line to be king of England. So current queen of England is Elizabeth II, which, fun fact, in The Prince and the Pauper, Edward's sister Elizabeth becomes queen of England, and she becomes Elizabeth I. And she reigns for a really long time, and then they go through, a lot of other kings and queens, and eventually now the current queen is Queen Elizabeth II, who has also reigned for a very long time. So much that there are her great-grandchildren are being born while she's still the queen. So her son had a son who was William, and now he has a son who is George. So George is the third in line to the throne. He was born in Paddington, London, so just like Edward and Tom. He was born in London as well, so easy to make that connection there. He does also have two younger siblings, Charlotte and Louis. So that's a little bit different than Edward. Edward has two sisters who are half-sisters, and they are older than him. And George has two younger siblings who are also in line for the throne. So when Prince George was born, there were reactions all over the world. It made headline news. Some countries reacted really positively to all the hype that was surrounding his birth, and some countries thought it was very overhyped. So we'll take a look at just a few. So one was Australia. So Australia made a donation in his honor to save the bilby, which is an Australian desert rat. And also, really interestingly, in northern Australia, they named a little crocodile George and put it on display with two other crocodiles that were named Kate and William, who they had previously named for George's parents. And now they're all in display in northern Australia. And their hope is that someday that'll draw the Duke and Duchess to come visit with George to see their crocodiles. Also positive was a Canadian reaction. So they lit their Parliament building up blue for baby George. And they also suggested that Canadian citizens can make a donation to a charity in Kate and William's honor. So now there's some that haven't been as positive. So we've got a quote from Russia. "I don't care about the heir. British monarchy destroyed our state. The birth of another British monarch who will suck our blood cannot bring us any kind of happiness." Harsh words from Russia. So again, that doesn't represent everyone, but that's one particular opinion coming from Russia. Also kind of a negative reaction coming from Iran. "Today, the British public, grinding under massive austerity budget cuts, unemployment, poverty wages, social deprivations, and crumbling services are thrown scraps of feel-good comfort from the much-hyped event. The attitude is silly at best and escapist Prince Charming syndrome on steroids at worst." Ooh, again, pretty harsh, talking about how basically this was, just to make people feel good, and that it is really not, it's covering up a bigger problem from Iran opinions. So then from Kenya, kind of last reaction we'll just focus in on is they actually had a black bull and a goat waiting to be presented as gifts to celebrate. So again, in The Prince and the Pauper, the whole idea is that there's these two babies that are born from very different lifestyles at the same time. So my original goal was to try and find out how many babies were born in London on the same day, but that is apparently harder information to find than I thought it would be. So instead I looked at globally. So on that day, there is an estimated 384,736 babies that have the exact same birth date as Prince George. So mimicking the story, those could all be little Tom Cantys running around, but hopefully not unloved as Tom Canty was unloved by his family of paupers. But if you look at that number and you break it down, that's over 4 babies per second that were born that day. So a lot of babies share that birthday, but there's really only one that gets the fame. Also, in that year, just to have a bigger scope, there were 140,428,588 babies that were born. So a lot of babies that are born, and just one happens to be spotlighted. So taking a look at some other royal babies that are born around the world. So Prince George got a lot of fame, but there's a lot, as I said before, there are a lot of other monarchies where there are kings and queens in different countries. So one of those is Belgium. And so in 2003, we had Prince Gabriel was born in Belgium, and you can see his sisters in that picture as well. This is just one example in Belgium. Here's another example, Prince Vincent and Princess Josephine in Denmark. So they're actually twins. They were born in 2011. Then we have Prince Hisahito of Japan. He was born in 2006. So some of these aren't as recent. The kids might be a little bit older now, into their teens. But again, somewhat recent, just to show that there are these royal babies that have their own level of hype that are being born all around the world, not just in England. Then we have Princess Salma of Jordan, born in the year 2000. And again, siblings there as well, but hers was in 2000. Then we have Princess Leonor of Spain, born in 2005 with cute little chubby cheeks. I really tried to look up how to pronounce this one, and I'm not sure. Tafa Ahau Manumatango. I have a feeling I'm very, very off, but of Tonga. So Tonga is kind of a small island nation near like Australia and New Zealand. He was born in 2013. Prince Jigme Ujien Wangchuk in Bhutan. And then again, another sibling in the picture as well. And then the last one to focus on, Prince Moulay Hassan of Morocco. So all of these nations and more, that wasn't every monarchy in the world, they still have kind of these traditions of it being kind of a big deal when a royal baby is born. So each country kind of focuses on it in a different way. But just thought it would be interesting to spotlight. That's all for today. See ya.